Ok, bonjour, je suis Rachel et je travaille comme un Agile coach à Unruly Media à Londres. Je ne parle pas français depuis l'école, mais je vais essayer un peu aujourd'hui. I will also probably speak little bits in English because my French is so bad. So, lorsque vous arrivez à une conférence, vous prenez les nouvelles idées que vous aimeriez essayer quand vous revenez au travail. So when you get to work, back from Scrum days, you may want to try some new things out. And I think this is a very common thing that people, they're interested, they want to find more, and when they get back to work, it's difficult. Let me see. Je travaille ici dans le produit développement en Unruly Media. Et ma livre, do you want to say? Translated just recently, available now in French. I didn't do the translation, so it should make sense. Avez-vous déjà essayé d'introduire changement au travail? C'est pas de la tarte. Quelques obstacles vous trouvez? Can you say what obstacles you ran into? Are there things that were problems when you tried to make a change in work? So speak up loud. Couture, yeah. Culture, and not fashion. Anything else? What else? Resistance, yes. I think this is the main thing. The main resistance seems to come from other people. So each change that you introduce, you have to talk to people, and everybody has a good reason why they don't want to do the change. So, pouvons-nous faire le changement facile? Voici Pierre. He's just been to Scrum Days. He wants to try his Scrum with his team. This is obviously a bad translation, but his team, well, one, they are disappointed that he has been to a conference and they did not go to a conference. And also, they had to do his work while he was away, and why should they try his idea? They're busy. And this is how we tend to think about it. What's their problem? Why is it always, we don't think about it as being a problem of how we deliver the message. But really, what went wrong? Can I ask you, what do you think he did wrong there? Yeah. I don't mean the sock guy. I mean the Pierre. So Pierre running into his team. Yeah, I just went to Scrum Days Paris. Let's try Scrum. He didn't ask, and he may not really know what he's doing. Is a big problem, because really, when you go back and you want to try a new idea, and the only thing you know about it is that you heard it at a conference, you probably don't know enough to teach other people how to do it. So we're not really ready for everybody to say, yes, we do it now, because they're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do now. So the biggest tip for any change is going very slowly. Don't rush. Put yourself in their shoes. Think about the change from their perspective. Choose your words with care. Think about what they're interested in, what is relevant for them, what world are they in, and try to bring whatever the change that you are introducing, try to make it something that will help them and explain it from the point of view of how it will help them. So Pierre has a second try, and this time he's going to actually explain and explain to his team and offer to teach them a little bit about what he has learned. This is a very good thing to do. When you go to a conference, always offer to share what you learned when you get back to work, because it reduces the jealousy of you went on a special thing and nobody else did. So, sometimes though, when you introduce a change, you feel like giving up. So, have you got recommendations? What are the recommendations you would have for somebody who's at Scrum Days? They want to introduce it to their team. What would be good things for them to do? Okay. To find Alex. Allies, yes, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you find other people. Yeah, so I think this may even be... So, here is a cute panda who has fallen down. But eventually he will learn how to do this if he keeps trying. So, yes, this is a good thing to do, is if you can go to a Scrum user group, I'm sure there are meetups in Paris, in other areas where you might be working, where you can learn more about how to do this. So connect with other people who are trying to do the same thing. So also, when you introduce a change, this usually brings out the skeptical people, the people who have many reasons why your change won't work, and they are happy to tell you about all of the things that will not work about your idea. It's actually a strange thing, but the person who talks to you about your idea, even if they are negative, they are engaging with it more. So talk to those people, try to understand what they're saying. They are actually thinking about it. Even if they're thinking all the bad things, they're still thinking about your idea. So engage with the skeptical people and dig deeper. Try to find the reasons why people do not want to follow your idea. There are many reasons, and actually it seems like for as many people as you have, each person has a different reason for not wanting to try a change. So sometimes it's too difficult, or we're not sure we have the permission, we're too busy, we haven't got time, and it's not my idea. Sometimes people think there's like a competition. It's like, I don't want to try your idea because I want my idea. So change takes a long time because you have to work with each of the people, with all of these different perspectives, and gradually dissolve them. So, yes? Yes. Yes, so a key to helping people to try a solution is actually selling the problem, is making sure everybody is aware of the problem so that they understand it might be worthwhile for them to do something new. There is an important thing to do with affecting change, and it starts with listening to people. So you have to really understand what people want. You need to listen, and you need to respect them. You need to spend time understanding what they want, and actually listening to somebody encourages them. But many people don't really know how to listen, and I know I am bad at this, but when you're trying to listen, you have to not talk. So you have to be quiet and leave time and leave space for somebody to say something. You need to wait. If you're checking with your watch and looking in your phone, and then people get the feeling you're not really listening to them. So you need to make sure that you focus on that person, and that you go to a place, maybe away from your desk, away in a nice setting where you feel there's no pressure. And then also don't rush the person, try to give time. And when a person talks, they might go blah, 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 and then they stop. So you could then say, and try to encourage, and then they will say blah, 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 and a bit more. But when you want to make sure that you have understood what they say, it's good to repeat back. Okay, this is what I think you said, this is what I think is concerning you. And then they have an opportunity to correct you and say, no, that's not it, this is it. And then they will talk a little bit more. So really engage with them. Stop thinking about you and just focus on them. This is a great way to gather information about what all of the different people in your team, in your surrounding, what they're thinking. So here's Pierre, and he is trying to talk to David, and he finds out that in the past there were attempts to do something, and the management said, no, we're too busy, we need to stop. So sometimes you need to find out there is a history that maybe you are not aware of before you come along. So always check to see what has been happening before. It may be that the whole organization tried Scrum last year, but you didn't know about it. And so they're worn out with Scrum, and maybe you need to try something else. So perhaps with any idea, instead of kind of rushing back from the conference, you need to spend some time investing in your time in learning more about your idea and thinking about it. So I found this proverb. Basically, little by little, you build a nest. So gather little small pieces together. Gradually, you will make a change, but it won't be like throwing a switch where it just happens magically. So one very powerful way to make a change is to be an example, to follow the practices yourself. So who here has heard about personal Kanban? Kanban for one? Okay, so here is something that you can try, and you can say, hey, this is working for me, and I'm doing this. And other people may be curious, and they may ask you about it, and it might spread naturally that way. It could be the same with a technical thing too. And then you want to involve other people. So one of the things, if you're going to try and involve other people, is the biggest reason why people will not get involved is they do not find there is time. So what you need to try to figure out is where can I find time from to talk to people? It may be initially that you talk to them over coffee, you try to do a lunchtime meeting, you try to encourage them to come to a Scrum user group or something after work, but this is slow. So sometimes you have to go to the management, and you have to persuade them to make more time, because of the benefits of the idea that you have. So in order to help your idea, you need to talk not just to your colleagues, but also to the management. And you need to think about what the benefits are. Now, there is a book called Drive, which is about motivation. Have you read this book? Are you aware of it? It's by Daniel Pink. There's a few hands at the back. Yeah, a few more. Basically, in this book, it says it's not the rewards or the punishment that motivate people. Instead, it is helping people to improve their skills, increase their mastery, have more choice and autonomy. Alistair, in his keynote, was talking about the team choosing, and connecting the daily work to a bigger purpose. So an important thing to do is to create a vision of what the work will be like when your idea is implemented. If people can see what future they're going towards, they may be attracted towards it. So it's worthwhile to talk about the potential future. And very crucially, you have to involve other people. And it doesn't have to be you who gets the glory for doing the idea. In fact, the more that you can involve people who are curious and interested, and then let them make the presentations and let them take the idea, it will go further than if you try to keep the control of the idea. And you can try to frame each change as an experiment. So a change is a temporary change. We are only going to try having a stand-up meeting for 1 week, and then after 1 week, we will review. So this doesn't seem like a big pain, and so people are willing to give it a try. But once they've been trying it, they then feel, yes, it's okay. It's not a big pain, and they're willing to keep doing it. So experimentation is a way of introducing change. Who here practices retrospectives with your team? So this is a great opportunity for the team to bring up problems. So they are raising issues and frustrations about the way they're working now. So you can use this as an opportunity to connect problems with ideas. And you can also ask, with retrospectives, people become more familiar with trying little new things, not massive things, small changes all the time, and people start to be more comfortable with this. This picture, have you tried doing this? This exercise, it's an emotional mood line, and everybody draws a line to indicate how they felt in the past period, and you look and you can see it started bad here. This is a sad face, and this is a happy face. So this guy is really, really happy. This is because he went on holiday, on vacation. Then we have one guy who always draws a straight line because he's just very stable. And then we have somebody else who had a lot of stress because this guy was away. And it's a good technique to use to just get a conversation started. Most of the retrospectives that we do in our team, we have people who are in other offices. So if you can see under here, that's our product manager, Amy. She's in New York, and she always participates in our retrospectives. And we use Google Hangouts. And during the retrospective, we take photographs of the Post-it notes. We email them over, so she sees them, and then she puts her notes, and we transcribe them and put them on the wall. So she's engaged in our meeting, even though it is a dynamic meeting mostly facilitated with post-it notes. One of the things that we try to do is to make sure that everybody is in agreement with a change. So here are some notes around how we wanted our stand-up meetings to be, our daily scrum, because this particular team, I don't know if you have ever had this situation, they had a daily scrum that was taking a very long time. And we had one guy who would like to talk a lot, and he was the scrum master, and so he didn't kind of bring any conversations to a close. So we had a retrospective purely about how can we make our stand-up meetings more bearable. And we came up with these agreements about the objective of the stand-up and what we would talk about afterwards. And another technique that we use to make sure that an agreement is really an agreement with everybody is we use this line. You draw a line. This is a bit I stole out of the book. I copied the illustration that you made. But basically, it's a gradient. You can put approve and block, and people then are able to indicate where they are. So it's not like yes, no. You can have a line, and then you get a sense. If you have people on either end, there's a disagreement. If you have all of the votes in the middle, people don't care. And if things are mostly here, it's okay to go ahead. So again, going back to Alistair's keynote, he was saying, ask the team, let the team choose. And this is very important. If you may have an idea, and you may have wishes and hopes and dreams of how the team will work, but the way that you get these realized is by asking the team, working with them slowly, and so they're able to choose themselves. I put this one in as an illustration of a real one. This is one where we were saying, who wants to be involved in a group? And I really, really want to be involved. I don't want to be involved. I will be involved if I have to be involved. And then we're able to see, oh yeah, okay, so these are the guys who will get this started. Another thing that you can do with retrospectives is you can agree that you're not sure whether there really is a problem, but the first step towards discovering if it is a problem is to make it more visible. So this is a picture in our office. You can see these are programmers. They're actually having an estimation meeting there, but what we do is we use the board, the physical board with cards, to collect problems. We also use it to make a history of our sprint, so that we're able to take a photograph of that and use that as in our retrospective. And if we are concerned about an issue, we may set up some monitoring of a problem to detect whether it really is an issue. This is hard to do with people issues, but it is still possible. So, okay, I have 10 minutes. 10? 15? Okay, thank you. Who's been in a stand-up where people have arrived late every day? Okay, yes. We have 3 teams. One team, they're always late. And they discuss about it in their retrospective, and they know that they're always late. And we even, their name, the team name is Marmalade, and the other teams change it to Marmalade because it annoys them. Anyway, so they have started trying to track who is late and make it on their board, so they can start to say, okay. And every time you have to go and make a mark on your board, like, oh, it's me again. You think, oh, maybe tomorrow I will set my alarm and I'll wake up a bit earlier. So you can track personal things, but it's less precise, and it doesn't always work. So I wanted to share some examples of changes we have been making just recently at work and talk you through how we've done them. So, recruitment. We wanted to get some more developers to work in our team, and we have had vacancies for 3 months, and not many people apply. So we wanted to get together with our personnel department and try to discuss what's going wrong. Why are we not getting good applicants? So we had a retrospective which was from all of the representatives from all of the teams, plus people from the personnel department, and we got together and we worked in groups. So you can see these guys are working groups and these guys are working groups, and they are creating some drawings of what they think the process is. So like from, we receive an email, can I come and work there? Then what happens? And then what happens? We map out the process, we look for the pain points, and so then we came up with a bunch of actions, things we could do. One of the main things we decided to do was to apply collective ownership to the way that we were handling this. So we introduced this teddy bear. The teddy bear is the token. If you have the TED, then you have to be the person to review the resumes, to make sure we have lined up people to do the interviews. And the way we start doing this is we have a board. And so this is the names of all of the developers. This is whether they've been a TED. This is, did they do a telephone interview, pair programming interview, a whiteboard interview, and today the TED is Jahed. And Jahed, he is our youngest developer, so he is only just from university, but he really took ownership of this more than some of the Scrum Masters. So he made this wiki page with all the useful links, and he even changed the spreadsheet that the personnel team use, which nobody else had thought to do, and he organised the whole process much more than perhaps some of the more senior people in the team would have done. And this would not have happened if we hadn't created an open process, if we hadn't invited people to discuss ideas and introduced a system where people can start to see what's going on, and anyone can know who is the contact person today, because they are written here on the TED and they hold the token. So that's one example of a change. Another longer term change has been to improve the ownership of the infrastructure that we use. So as developers, we have workstations and computers, and we need them to be set up the same because we use pair programming, and people were not upgrading. So when a new version of a tool or a library came out, maybe one would be upgraded and another one wouldn't, and then every time we needed to set up a new workstation, it would take all day, and it would then be different from the other machines. So again, we started with a workshop. We talked about all of the topics that we wanted to improve within our area. We did dot voting, so everybody got some dots. Here are the dots. And they voted on the things that they wanted to place more effort on. And then here is that line again. This is the guys who decided they would be in the Borat squad, is what they call it, from the DevOps Borat Twitter account. I don't know if you've seen this jokey thing. Anyway, but then we turned it into a serious effort. This did also require going to the management, selling the idea, saying, look, give us time to do this, this will save us time in the long run. And now every month we have 3 pair days. Each team gives 2 developer days to doing this, and we have a backlog of things that we're working on, such as Nagios alerts and making Puppet less slow and getting rid of server machines that are out of date. So that has been a useful thing that we have found. And again, we've approached it through having retrospectives, workshops involving the team, giving the team choice. Here is the last example I'm going to talk about, which is we had a situation where we had a large team. And who's been in a large team? And is it easy? Or would you prefer to be in a small team? It's sometimes, so it depends on what you're trying to do. But if you're in a small team, you can act more quickly, you have a reduced scope, and you're able to make changes independently of the other teams, or that was what we wanted to get towards. But people were sad that they didn't want to break up because they were friends. And even though they would not be far away, like they would be right next to each other, they still were worried that splitting teams would be a problem. So we had a retrospective, and the developers decided to call this retrospective something from the Lord of the Rings book. Are you aware of this? The Hobbit, this kind of breaking of the fellowship. And they made a special cake filled with marmalade, and it was a Lord of the Rings cake, and they made Lego figures here, and they put a little ring on the golden ring, and this was to show really that they were worried that it wasn't going to work. But no, it works, and actually having the discussion, talking about how it would work, enabled the team to realise that it was okay, it wasn't a serious problem. And now what we do is we actually rotate people between the teams. So every quarter, every 3 months, there's an opportunity for people to say, I would like to move, and they can move. We don't move everybody at the same time, that wouldn't work, especially not the whole team goes over here because it would just be the same. But we also have started, now we've been doing this rotation between teams of developers, we're now starting to rotate the role of the Scrum Master. So now there is one team, and they have a different Scrum Master every 3 months. And you would think this might not work, but it does work. There is a little bit of handover to make sure it works, but it means that each person who acts as the Scrum Master suddenly gets a little bit more engaged and understands what Scrum is and why it works, and they really take it on. Nobody is forced to do it. It's a thing always by choice. But again, what we're working with is to try to get the teams to choose and the teams to take this autonomy. So a tool that you can use to help understand a problem in your group is something called force field analysis. It's a chart you can draw, and you talk about the change that you want at the top. Then you look for the driving forces, the things that are helping you work towards this, and you look at the things that might be holding you back. And what you want to do is to amplify these things. And these are the obstacles that we talked about before. These are the problems. These are the reasons we are not doing it already. And it's a good analytical tool. You can use it in a group. So it's a way of being able to discuss a change, a potential change. So what I would encourage you to do before you leave Scrum Days is to make your plan, think about what the obstacles are and how you're going to invest in your idea, what time you will have to spend before bringing it to others, and how are you going to engage other people's interest in your idea. So with that, I think I'm running out of time, so thank you very much. I'm going to put the slides on SlideShare with my bad translations, and I also wanted to mention again that my book is translated into French, so it's available if anyone would like to buy it, and it has some of the techniques that I talked about in this in the translation. So any questions? There's also a bunch of references, which you could, when I put this on SlideShare, you can get the references. So, any questions? Yes?
situation of conflict, meaning individual fighting, not being on the same page?
We have had issues of conflict. I think whenever you have people working together, you do get disagreement. And also on teams, you can have some personality clash where there is disagreement. I haven't really spoken about what my role is with the team, and one of the things that I do is I try to help resolve such conflict. So I make sure that nobody is being ignored and people are having an opportunity to be heard.
So you intervene, you don't let them address the issue themselves?
I might want them to address an issue, but what I'm trying to say is that you can get a situation where the majority ignores somebody with an issue, and I try to make sure any concerns are addressed so that they don't become bitterness and bad feeling. Any other questions? Yes.
Sometimes there's one person in the team who's always focused on himself.
Yes.
And never cares about the consequences that his concerns may do to the team, and then the team just choose to ignore him. How do you do to establish some communication and make him realize that there is bigger concerns than only his?
It can be a very slow process sometimes for people to become more aware. Some people are very internally focused and have their own personal objectives and don't care about group objectives. The whole of Scrum really is trying to measure people by group performance rather than individual performance, and so there are a lot of mechanisms in Scrum to show that unless you help the team work, then you don't get the recognition. So one thing is to have the visible progress and use the retrospectives so that that person can hear the discussion about why things might be an issue. A way that you can sometimes deal with it is to involve that person to become a leader or a teacher, so that they have to move into sharing their knowledge. We particularly because we work using XP and we do pair programming, we make sure that we only recruit people who want to work in a collaborative way. But I know that's not always the case in many organizations. Any more? One more last question? Yes.
Thank you. In my team, I have a part of my peoples, engineer peoples, software developers, that are quite old.
Yes.
And it's quite difficult to move them to an agile development. With the young people have no difficulty, and some difficulty, troubles to convince them to move. And if you could give some helps, tips.
This is a very good question because, yes, the more changes you've seen in an organization, the more blasé you are about this changes. You don't care so much. And soon you're thinking, maybe I will retire soon. I'm only going to just do this job for a little while. But I think you can relight the fire of learning and engagement. If you give people the opportunity, a lot of the time, older people will, they kind of stand back and they're like, oh, this is for the young people. But if you give them attention and if you give them a space to learn, which is not threatening, maybe you could introduce, if they were programmers, you might try thinking about introducing some coding dojos or something like this, a way where they can do peer learning without it seeming out of place. It's difficult because you may need some people to acquire new skills, but they may have a status which indicates that they don't need the skills, and but they do need the skills. And so you, rather than sending people on training, you may be able to do more personalized learning programs with support. And one of the things we did recently within our organization, we created a tech academy. So this was we had new people starting, but we used the existing people to teach their skills, so they had to get more engaged with the group. And then also they were able to attend all of the other sessions. So then, because they were attending the other sessions, they then learned new things about some of the things that they didn't know. So, but it's very difficult, I think. Okay, all right, Bella. Say that again? Oh, I see. Oh, so I thought that there were, so there's loads of time for questions. Okay, fine. I thought that when you were saying the different numbers of minutes, that was the end. Okay. All right, well, anyway, so there's more time for questions. So are there actually any more questions? Yes? Yeah, the microphone. What's it? Yes, I mentioned the splitting of a team.
Thank you. You mentioned that a team was split.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
We did that because the focus of the team was too broad, and this meant that the meetings were long, and it also meant that to be a person on that team, you had to know a wide part of the system. Whereas if we split the team, they have a smaller and more independent part that they could work on, and it makes their discussions smaller. It does introduce inter-team discussions, but in general, people feel more engaged when they're in a smaller group. And our team size is actually 4 to 5 developers, so quite small. But I think that way, nobody can hide. So actually this comes back to your question. If you're in a very small team, you can't kind of just sit back and wait for other people to do things. You have to get engaged. So, and it's much easier also to make decisions. So if you're in a retrospective trying to make a decision among 15 people, it's difficult. But if it's 4 people, it should be easy. Well, should be easy, not always easy, but yeah.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Do you have ever encountered the case where one team asks for the knowledge of another and it's perceived as an impediment for the other team?
Yes, I have seen that kind of, and actually, and this is not where I am now, but it's like in another organisation, and they had a team in the UK and a team in Spain, and one team started before the other. So it's seen as one team has the knowledge and the other team always asks the questions, but they didn't start to make decisions themselves. And it was frustrating for the team being asked the questions, because obviously it takes time. And what they did is they did exchange people, and that helped. They also had some big workshops where they invited people from one office and another, so they had some big retrospective meetings to try to address that. This is one reason why we're trying to do the team rotation, because it enables us to do a very slow knowledge transfer. So if you have somebody from that team who's working with the other team, then they can bring the knowledge that they absorbed in their other team, and it allows things to spread slowly. There's not really a very fast solution to doing this, I think. Any other questions?
Thank you. You were talking about one thing that is often a problem, which is when you want to do change, people need time to take the ownership of this change and try things and experiment things and often fail and try again. And often they don't have time because there are projects running on, and the management don't see any results in this, so that they don't give enough space and time to try things. So we spend time trying things, but not enough. So it seems like it's lost. So how do you involve the management in this kind of change?
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of different things all combined there. So if a team is just working really fast, it's not sustainable. So part of the idea of having a velocity, measuring, maybe how many story points we deliver, enables you to start doing other things that are background tasks that are essential to do the work. So that's one thing you could potentially do. In terms of engaging with management, it really depends on the issue and how close they are to the situation. The way I am working at the moment is I have a one-to-one meeting with all of the team leaders and also with the CTO, who is the head of our part of the organization. And so we talk about issues that are happening, but we are already working in a situation where all developers have a 20% time, so people have time. In our organization, we have recognized that it's a valuable thing to do. If you're a long way from that, which is in most organizations, then you can try to create spaces for learning, maybe at different times of the day. You may be able to do, and this may not work in France, but lunchtime meetings or evening meetings. Otherwise, I think sometimes it is that you are trying to make too big a change. Often it is an indication that a whole piece of infrastructure is really not working. Say, for instance, introducing continuous integration is not something people can do in their spare time. It really requires proper support from management, understanding the benefits. And so you need, with any change, you need to do education, so people understand the issue, and then practical task planning about how it's going to take place.
The thing is that you were talking about velocity.
Yep.
It takes a long time before the change we put in place have an impact on velocity. So
yeah.
I think often the management is focused on schedule and having a higher velocity. And are there other type of indicators?
Well, no, I wasn't meaning to use velocity as an indicator. I was meaning that the velocity is a measure of how much work you do compared to the learning work. So if you do more learning work, the velocity will slow down. And I'm actually encouraging to slow down and deliver less. And it shows up in the velocity. So, now we can only do 10 points. And then that means we have a capacity to do learning in the background. So velocity should enable the team to deliver at a sustainable pace rather than to go as fast as possible. And so it's not saying the change will increase velocity, it's the reverse actually. It's explaining that the change will slow down velocity.
It's difficult to explain to management.
I appreciate this. If you there are bad things you could do, like you could double all your estimates, and then the velocity would look big. But it's probably not honest to do this. If people genuinely don't understand what that figure represents, you could potentially do something different. But you have to grab the time, otherwise you just run the team into the ground, and people will leave because they are not able to work in a sustainable way. Sustainable pace is a core value of Agile working, and it needs to be there. The people in Scrum may work really hard to create a product increment, but it should be by choice, not by force. And I think that's a culture change that takes a while to, and I have to say, the hardest thing about change is it takes a long time. and people want results sooner. Thank you. Are we? Oh, okay, right. Any more questions? Okay, I think it looks like we've run out of questions, yes. Okay, all right. Well, so thank you very much. And if you do have any other questions, talk to me.